This is a continuation of our discussions from yesterday. We began the conversation discussing whether or not any job is a better job, and we went ahead to focus on how the youth can prepare themselves today for work tomorrow. We are taking those discussions further today. We'll start with a short video on views of some youth as to what they think the future of work is looking like and how some of the youth can prepare themselves for the future before we proceed to have a panel discussion, then an open forum. A few housekeeping protocols. The washroom is to my left when you exit the auditorium. Wi-Fi is available as it was yesterday, so if you look on the wall just to your left, Alisa Hotels is the name of the Wi-Fi, and when you click on that, it opens a browser page for you, and you can key in the voucher code as it appears on there. There's also one pasted at the back for you to make it easier. We're streaming this event live on Facebook and YouTube. I think it'll be streamed live on Twitter as well, depending on the situation. I'll update you. The cameras are strategically positioned to be able to capture the event fully as it is, so let's try our best as much as possible to reduce the movements as much as we can. We'll begin with the short video, and from there we'll proceed to the panel discussions. The lights will be dimmed at this point. Thank you very much.
I am from Taodim Augustine, well known as Orlando, from Sishikojokro in the Akontoma district, Western North region. I am into mobile money business, and then also I do buy, let me say, small cocoa just to improve my standard of living. And I just completed, I am nearly to complete due to the COVID-19, so the semester has not yet come to an end. So I am in my final year for now, doing the diploma education with the University of Education at a distance. You also precisely.
My name is Wisdom Yele, and I came from Kute, Jaseka District in the Oti region. I currently work with Ministry of Food and Agriculture as an extension agent. Our work, or my work, is to visit farms and also introduce new technologies to farmers and help them also improve on their yield.
I'm Doris Akonko Danso from Asindompem in the central region of Ghana, a student of University of Education, Winneba. I'm doing French in Education, BA, Bachelor of Arts. Okay, I want to become an international journalist. Yeah, I want to do journalism internationally. I want to use that opportunity to advocate for the youth in my community especially.
Sename Godwin is my name. I'm from Central Kofi, Benua, a town next to Hokwe in the Volta region. I am a poultry farmer and also a cocoa farmer.
Looking at the way the world is growing, the climate changing, and a whole lot of things, yes, it might change in the future.
In the next 5 years, I see myself to be a farmer. Even if there will be any other job attached to it, I'm still a farmer. There will be the eradication of using rudimentary tools, and then instead of using cutlasses, hoes, and other things, we'll have to use tractor and machines to weed our cocoa farms and cultivate our crops. So for some few years to come, I know that we'll be entering to using of modern ways of farming and other things. I know it will not disturb the farmers because if they are educated on how to use these machines, it will be very simple for them. And now I have realized that it has started already when Cocoa Board has distributed some machines for the farmers to prune their farm and also weed their farm. So this is just the beginning.
Yes, I really have the confidence because For French language, especially in our country here, French language is not common. It's not everybody who is able to study the French language. And then even for now, the opportunities are more. Apart from being journalist, the government has bring the French education into the lower primary so that job will be easy for those who are studying the French language. So, and yeah, I really have the confidence that I will get a job after my education.
Yes, yes, I'm worried. I'm worried. Sometimes it is only good you do what you have been trained to do. But if what you have been trained to do, there's no need going to do it, then it's like you are not doing your work. So I think that as an extension officer, I should be worried about this. If I can't go to farmers again, if I can't get farmers in group to impart the technologies we are trained to impart, then it means that the work is not being done.
It has not been easy. Recently, the Minister for Education just came out that the minimum qualification for teaching at the basic school is degree. And I'm also doing diploma. I'm also doing diploma now. So after my diploma, I have to do the extra 2 years before I can attain my degree. So for now, I was thinking that after my service, 1 year service, I was thinking that maybe I'll be recruited into the GES and then do get something, start teaching, and then get something for future. But this is the case where I have to do extra 2 years before I can even be recruited. And then I'm thinking that even before I even write the licensure exams too, I have to finish with my degree before I can do so. If not, so I'll not be permitted because of the qualification that have been changed for now. I have to do the 2 years top up before I can write my license.
Yeah, the demand is high. Even, let me use this example, like the president. The president knows how to, he speaks French. So anytime he's traveling outside to other countries, he finds it so easy because he knows how to speak English, he knows how to speak French. So it's funny easy moving around here. So.
Moreover, some years ago, those that were working in the banks, they didn't even know how to operate the computers. So when computer came, they have to be sacked from the bank, and then computer system were taken over. So I think if this thing happened, they'll have to concentrate on their talents and the skill that they have, because I think that's not the only skill that they'll be having at that particular time. Yeah. I think all that we need is the education on how to use these machines and how to go about with these technologies.
Technology, especially now we are moving to e-learning, everything electronic. When I talk of e-learning, some of these farmers, some of them, they use the mobile phones as we use. Some of them cannot even afford the cost of mobile phone to even call an extension officer to complain. Sometimes if we support these farmers with even mobile phones, that they can even take a picture of a problem on their farms, they can send it to the officers who also work on it and send them feedback through the technology, not necessarily going to them. So I think that the agri sector must also be, the much technology should be introduced. And also, looking at the issues of climate change, we have to also be thinking about irrigation, so that our farmers will not just rely on rain for their farming activities.
For instance, when agrochemicals was introduced into the system, they did not educate the farmers on how they should use it and how it's going to affect them if they misuse it. So I think before these kind of things happen, there have to be education on the machine.
In our communities like this, we are from a low background, and if there are certain support like scholarship and other stuff to push us forward, especially study the French language, in our surrounding like this, it's very difficult to adapt with the environment. Sure, because I'm staying with people who speak Twi. So if I get a surrounding, like a place where I'm being surrounded with people who are speaking French, that will help me to move faster, learn the language spontaneously. So,
honestly, I have this hope. I have hope that what I am planning to do in future, I will definitely do it. You know, education, I will teach, and I can teach, but a time to come. If only teaching that God want me to do, I'll do the teaching. But if there's another thing that He want me to do, I can switch from the education and then move to the round that He want me to do.
Great. Those were some interesting views there. A number of issues coming up: skills development, technology, education, trying to diversify your capabilities in different areas. And I think the panel will do justice to most of these issues and other issues that haven't come up in this video yet. At this point, I'd like to introduce the moderator for the panel discussion. So she introduces the panelists, and then we can move on from there. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly help me welcome Ethel Sewa Boatin. She's the Ghana coordinator for the Youth Forward Learning Partnership. Over to you, Ethel.
All right, thank you, Zion. Good morning and welcome once again to day 2 of our conversation. I am delighted to host you again. Yesterday, we had a great time talking about, is any job a better job? Our panel did a great job and we are so grateful to them. If you missed it, don't worry. You can always go back to the PDA TV on our YouTube channel, and then you watch it. But I want to share something brief from what we discussed yesterday. We talked about better jobs, and we concluded that is any job a better job? Well, it depends. And a better job, or the concept of a better job, is not something that is permanent or something you attain, because what may seem a better job for you today may change over time, because as certain things changing, the kind of things, expectations we have, or we want the jobs that we do to give to us change over time. For instance, there are people who, prior to the coronavirus pandemic, thought they were okay with the jobs that they were doing. But when the circumstances changed, and then you realize there are some people who would have preferred to even work from home, but their jobs did not offer such services to them or such abilities to them. And then you realize, you start thinking, is this a better job or not? So we ended by telling people that, yes, you should dream, and you should dream big about the jobs that you want to do, have great expectations, but you have to work towards it. When you have a dream about something, you should work towards it. But most importantly, you have to be doing something before you move to the next level. And whilst you are doing something, you have to work on yourself, and you have to develop your worth to get to that level that you think is a better job for you. And I know that today we are going to also have very interesting conversation on the expectations of young people for their professional future, and how the labor market can help us, the challenges that we have in the labor market, and also how we can help address these challenges so that young people can have dignified and fulfilling jobs in future. And to do this, I have a very fantastic panel today. There are 4 who will be joining me up here to lead, to have the conversation. And so the first person I'll call is Abigail Esiama Yeboah. Okay. Abigail is a researcher and a tutor at International Community College. Abigail, you are welcome.
Thank you.
And we hope to have a very interesting discussion with you from your perspective as a teacher And as a young person doing research out there, we hope to hear more from you in the course of the conversation.
Thank you.
Okay. We also have Nicholas Boampong. Nicholas, can you please join us off stage? Thank you. Nicholas is a business and technology consultant and a co-founder of Starbucks. He's been involved in working with young people who are entrepreneurs. And we hope to take a lot from you on issues of technology, changes and advancements, and how it affects the future and how we even work in the future. Nicholas, you're welcome.
Exciting to be here.
Okay. All right. Our next panel member is Emmanuel Leslie Adair. Let's welcome Emmanuel. Emmanuel is the co-founder of Africa Skills Hub, where they are supporting lots of young people to acquire skills to be able to find their dream jobs, as we talked about yesterday. And we hope to learn a lot more about the work you are doing and also see how we can support young people to get their dream jobs in future. Emmanuel, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
My last panelist to join me today is Christabel Dadzie. Let's welcome Christabel. Okay. Christabel is a senior social protection specialist with the World Bank. Christabel, you are welcome. And I am happy to say that she's also the co-author of a very fresh report on youth employment programs in Ghana, options for effective policy making and implementation. And we hope to glean a lot from Christabel today as much as possible and to learn a lot about issues of youth employment, youth programming, and how we can ensure that we are not only solving the problem of unemployment, but we are building a solid social human capital for the jobs in the future. You're welcome, Christabel.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So as I said, today we are looking at issues of supporting young people. We are looking at issues on addressing issues on the labor market and then the challenges we face now, and then also looking at how we can have the future that we want. And our topic is preparing young people for tomorrow's jobs today. Okay. Christabel, I would like to start with you. Since, as I said earlier, your report is very fresh about employment, young people's employment in Ghana. Can you give us an overview of the landscape of employment of young people in Ghana?
Sure, thank you very much for the opportunity for having me. Like you said, the report is fresh. However, it's been a labor of love for almost 3 years now, actually. And the reason why it took a long time was we wanted to make sure that all the various stakeholders were actually, whose voice was being heard. Yeah. So this was not just, researchers sitting in a back room and writing. It was as a result of massive consultations over a period of time, with the youth being at the center. So that is just an overview in terms of how we put it together. But what we try to do actually is take a look at youth in general, because I think a lot of the times when we say youth, we think about it as one group of people. But one of the main things the report does is it categorizes different kinds of youth based on their capabilities, their location, their gender, and such, which is very important, because the need, as we saw even in the video, of somebody in Seshiri or so would be quite different than the need of somebody in Accra, just by virtue of even location. Then there's also the discussion around education status. There needs to be solutions for educated youth, different types of education, secondary, tertiary, versus people who are out of school. The fact that they're out of school doesn't mean that you shouldn't provide programming for them. So we try to lay that gamut out. Now, once that is done, the other thing that we do is to try and figure out what are some of the key areas that already exist that government and other partners can hone into to get gains. And so we're not coming up with any new ideas. We looked at what is already happening, and then we packaged it and said, you can pick this and run with it. And so in terms of the areas that we looked at, where we are convinced that there's opportunities for further employment, agribusiness along the entire value chain. So from the production of farming, production, all the way to processing, marketing, there's accounting in there. There's a lot of jobs within the farming sector that we don't think about. And so you think about farming, they think about an old man who's poor in a village, using his hands, to till the soil, but there is so much more there. So how do we explore those? How do we build incubators around agribusiness to support the youth who want to be a part? So we look at that. Another is entrepreneurship, a discussion we have a lot. But I actually come from a slightly different perspective of entrepreneurship. I'm actually a little wary of it because I see it as the new lawyer and doctor in our time. When we were kids, everybody wanted to be, our parents would tell us you should be lawyer, doctor. Today, everybody's entrepreneur. And the reality is not everybody will thrive as an entrepreneur. And so it's important that we create an ecosystem that will help young people thrive in entrepreneurship, but only if they are interested, not because that's the only way out. So that's one. So there's two pieces. Then we also look at apprenticeships for people who are not necessarily at the tertiary education level. When they're done with the technical and vocational education, how can we boost the prospects of their jobs? So we're looking at things like certifications. Wouldn't you love it if a tiler came to your house and you knew he had certification X, and because of that, the tiles will be straight, right? Yeah. There's a certain level of expertise that we'll all expect. Right now, it's a hit or miss kind of situation that we have. And so we're saying, let's take a look at how we can improve the apprenticeship system. We can increase the on-the-job training that will make them viable. And then a big bucket is not a type of job, but something that we've seen to be very problematic, and I think our panelists will agree with me and talk about this, is pre-employment support. And within our universities, even not even university is far. I'd like to say let's start from high school and even sometimes at the basic level. But what are we training our youth to do? And this is where the future of work comes in really big. At the World Bank, for example, for the last 5-6 years, we've been talking about technology and talking about access to the internet and access to data and why it's important. Fast forward to today, now with COVID-19 striking, technology is not even phenomenal anymore. It is what you do, right? But the question becomes, how do we ensure that we don't wait till we are in a crisis, or we don't wait till there's an absolute need before we are ready? If you look at a lot of the way our education system is set up, as we all know, chew, forecast, and forget, right? And so you don't have viable, versatile graduates. And that is a problem. So within the school system, it's important that there's a career development, career planning trajectory. That is not just a class, but it's throughout the 4 years. And we highlight some institutions that are already doing that as good practice for others to look at. So there's other things within the report, but these are some of the main outcomes of the report that we posit towards improving youth employment and making youth ready for the future of work today.
Okay, thank you. That was very comprehensive. And I would advise that you go to the World Bank's website and please read a copy. It's very educative. This program is brought to you by the Youth Forward Learning Partnership, which is led by Overseas Development Institute in the UK, Participatory Development Associate in Ghana, and Development Research and Training in Uganda. And it is in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation. We have audience both in-house and online, and we would encourage our audience online to please share and also send your comments, your questions, and your contribution at the right time. We would open up the discussion to our in-house participants as well as our participants online. So Leslie, you realized that in Christabel's delivery, she talked about a lot of issues. And when it comes to the labor market situation currently, we all agree that there are some challenges. Yes. Challenges that affect young people, and so they are not able to have access to their dream jobs. In your engagements with young people at the Africa Skills Hub, what are some of the main issues or challenges that you see with young people that are looking for job? Why is it that they are unable to find the jobs that they look for?
Okay, thank you so much for this question. So at Africa Skills Hub, we are business incubator and also youth employment accelerator. So what we do is very simple. We recruit students and graduates into our 1-month program, which we call it Work Integrated Learning Program. Within that 1 month, we take them through design thinking, problem-solving skills, data skills, communication, and others. And then within our month, after 1 month, we try to help them to be able to secure their what you call the better job that they're looking for. And those of them who also want to go into entrepreneurship, we're able to also incubate them and help them to be able to start their own business. Over the period, I mean, the one thing that I've seen with young people who have been coming to our academy is that they lack what you call the employable skills. So when you talk about the employable skills, these are the basic skills that when you get to work for the first time, you need to know. For example, how to use a computer. You will not get to office and they'll give you a pen and paper. The first thing you'll get is a laptop or a computer. So even how to send an email is a basic skill like every young person must know. But they come to our workplace and they don't even know how to send an email. They write everything at the subject and click send. So you receive an email and the content is at the subject. And there's the main body, there's nothing there. So this is a skill like every young person at least must have. So we focus on that aspect. And another thing is that most of them also come to academy with the idea of, okay, there should be a job waiting for me. And I think we've passed that stage. When we look at a decade ago, where the population has not increased that much. And from research, every year over thousands of, over 100,000 people graduate from various tertiary institutions across the country. And from research, only 60% of these young people are able to find job within the first year of the computer school. So the 40% still lack, which means that for 10 years ago, this 40% is piled up to now. Which means that finding job now is not an easy thing like finding job in 10 years ago. So which means young people must have that mindset of trying to help themselves. And we all know that, our education system is not preparing us enough. So if you don't put in extra effort to prepare yourself, you're not able to get your dream that you're looking for. So I think the main lack is the employable skills, which young people lack when they come to academy. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Emmanuel. Okay, so Abigail, we've discussed a lot of issues affecting young people, even as they go to the labor market in search of job. You also work with young people, and I know from your personal experiences, what is the issue when it comes to the labor market? What is the situation? I would want you to share your experience with us.
Thank you, Rachel. And I'm grateful that the panelists before have spoken about something interesting I heard from his presentation had to do with young people coming out and they don't even know how to do basic things that is demanded in the labor market. For example, you go to an office and you're expected to send an email and he or she does not even know how to do that. And I see that a lot with my students. I teach students from different national backgrounds, and sometimes they are high school students, so they are not kids, they're not so young, and you see them just, they test you and just say, hi, I sent it. Hello, can you do this for me? And I see that right from the beginning, from when we're training them to, before they get to the university, it looks as though we're not trained to fit into the labor market. For example, if you send your CV without a cover letter, or you send it and you send it not to the appropriate office or the appropriate person who is supposed to receive it and work on it for you, I think that can be the beginning of you not being able to enter into the job that you so dream about. So I see that sometimes there's this, should I say, disjoint with what we learn, or what we are trained to be, and what is expected in the labor market. Our skill sets, most of the time, I see as lacking, and we also lack basic, should I say, intrinsic skills, attitude, and all of that. So the labor market itself is ready, but it seems as though the youth are not trained or there's a disjoint between what is expected in the labor market and what we come out with, what we hold, what we have, and what we are willing to offer.
All right, thank you very much. And the issues coming up, I think it's not so different from what yesterday we talked about. We talked about instances where young people do not have, when they are even looking for a job right after school, or what the young person wants is to have a job that comes with ease, and then the next moment you have your own car, you have your apartment, you have everything at a snap of your fingers just because you've graduated from school. But if you look at what happens in school and then what happens on the job market, or what happens even at work, it seems that our young people are not ready or adequately prepared for work. There are instances where young people come out of school, but they do not even know, if I want to look for a job, what strategy do I even use? Where do I even start from? But I'm rather thinking, oh, I should get a job. And if I should get a job, it should come with all the benefits or the privileges that somebody who has probably worked for over 10 years already has that. And it's interesting that the same issues are coming up. Another issue that came up yesterday was entrepreneurship. And the fact that it seems lately most young people have the title of an entrepreneur, or most youth are co-founders. They've been on the set. They set out to be entrepreneurs, but when you go deep into it, you realize that for most of them, they are not doing well on that path. But they are also not willing to even go work for somebody because they are thinking, okay, lately it's entrepreneurship that we're talking about. Lately, you have to own your own business. You have to be your own boss and all that. Nicholas, is it every young person who should be or who can be an entrepreneur?
That's a good question. Let me start off by saying that one thing that I always tell young entrepreneurs or people in the SME or MSME sector is that the beauty of business ownership and then the demand of business ownership are different. And so if you seek to be an entrepreneur, you should also realize that there are some essential requirements that you need to have. Working with few people, I've also noticed that the lack of requisite skills to start the enterprise is always lacking. I think over the years we've had the mantra of telling young people to dream, but I think that we need to also begin to say that prepare once you do, and I think that has been the gap that, like Christopher said, it's very fashionable to have the term CEO of one organization or the other. But some details, some level of work is expected of whoever is seeking to start an enterprise. And I think that apprenticeship has been one aspect that is really lacking in this space. You'll also find out that a lot of people are probably going into businesses that they exist in a certain way, nothing new really coming up. But I think that what young people need to also understand is that it doesn't kill to say that I'm going to understudy somebody who has done this for a period, to be able to understand that, okay, day in, day out, managing this business, this is what it requires. Beyond seeing it on TV, beyond seeing it on social media, blasting your flyers around and say that I started this company, I'm the CEO, the burden of business ownership comes into play. And so for me, apprenticeship is key. I think that over the period, there's something that has been lacking. And then the dedication of the entrepreneur or the lead person in that enterprise to submit him or herself to training, prior to even investing a CD into the business is also very critical. So I think these two, for me, are one of the pivotal success stories, I mean, success cases that every entrepreneur who wishes to go into any business, be it a product or a service, entrepreneurship will require that you have some form of apprenticeship, also being able to submit yourself to some form of training that will prepare you for the journey that you are embarking upon.
All right, thank you. I want us to consider technology and how it's going to affect, or is already affecting, the way we work. We know that the current labor market situation is way different than like 20 years ago. Things have changed rapidly, that we've had to adjust to the changes that's currently going on. Leslie, let's start with you. Do you think that our young people have the requisite skills to be able to thrive in our current technological changing world?
So Etta, before I comment on it, I think I like what Christopher said about entrepreneurship, and I think I just want to say a few words before I answer your question. So as from what Christopher said, I mean, most of the young people are actually looking for a job, and because they can't find a job, they tend to be entrepreneurs, and I think that's a big thing that, I mean, from the report Christopher shared, we need to pay attention to, because people are tending to be entrepreneurs because there are no jobs. And as a result, I mean, this also is in line with no more business that collapsed within the first year of establishment. So you give them funding and definitely will collapse because they're not ready to pursue it because they're looking for a job. Because they don't find a job, they try to be entrepreneurs. And to answer your question about technology, I mean, I still have an issue why we are not allowed to use computers or laptops. I still don't understand why, I mean, basic, digital skills are not being taught at secondary schools. So at the end of the day, look at where the world is going. You leave school, you get to work first place, and they give you a computer, as I said earlier. They don't ask you to write. I mean, you're going to use some computer. So why do we still encourage students to be writing when they'll be using computers when they get to workplace? So basic computers and technology should be taught from various schools. And that is going to be the issue that's going to face learners in future. We all know that robots are taking over our jobs. So if we are still doing the same old courses at the various schools, then how do we pursue the future? So for me, I always say that people should be ready to do work they've never done in their life or do a job that is not related to their careers. I mean, you see someone who left school with political science is now being what's called a cashier at the bank. Someone who read accounting is now a developer. So people should be ready to do things that they've not done in their life because technology is taking over our work and robots is taking over our work, and we should be willing to learn new things to stay relevant in the job market.
Okay, thank you. I'm Abigail. Looking at the changes in technology, does it reflect in the curriculum that is used to teach people, young people? You are the senior high school level. Do you think that in terms of the content of what is being taught to students, it's preparing them adequately for the future?
Okay, thank you so much. I think I have the privilege to be in a different system than I was trained in. I went through the Ghana education system that uses the GES syllabus. Here am I in an international school that uses the British curriculum. And you see a very big difference when it comes to how these kids are trained and how I was trained. You know, he talked about students not being able to use a computer at the high school. For my school, they started at like the basic level. They go to year four, it's like primary 4, and then they are already at the computer lab learning how to program again. That's how early they start doing this. So if you ask me, it's not really a matter of, it's not a general thing. It looks like there are some aspects of portion, or should I say a section of the youth that are trained in a different system, and they tend to have an advantage over the others. For example, if you are in A-level in my school, you should be able to program. You know the languages, you know Python, you know C++, And I know somebody goes to university and they don't even know what C++ is. A-level is just a little bit above the high school system. So you see, I think that the systems are different. For mine, I can say some way, somehow, it's preparing the youth. But generally for the child whose mother cannot afford to put them in the British curriculum or American system, this person will come out and would not have these requisite skills when it comes to technology and preparing for the labor market.
Okay, thank you. So we're still looking at the future and how we are preparing young people for the future. I think we've talked about the skills set of young people for the future. I want us to also look at availability of jobs. Christabel, how can we ensure that there are jobs available for young people?
We can't, honestly. In a sense that I think all the panelists have to some extent said this, which is we can't just have that expectation of I have finished school and so I have a job. It doesn't work that way. The public sector right now actually in Ghana hires the most, and then they had a freeze. And so then what happens in those sense? Then we need to broaden the spectrum, right? The private sector is doing their part to some extent, but needs to open up more. And that's actually where the whole idea of entrepreneurship comes from. But for me, I actually look at it this way. I'm like, there's a difference between an entrepreneurial mindset and a business owner. And I think it's important that we separate those two things. Because in my job at the World Bank, I'm an entrepreneur on the task. Although somebody pays me, I think critically around decisions I make because they affect other people. That is entrepreneurship. So one thing that I like to stress on that we should all have at the back of our minds is this whole idea of mindset. And the mindset discussion goes way, out there. It's the same discussion that says, I'm in the US, I'm studying, having my master's degree at Columbia University, and yet I'm a waitress in the evenings, right? Or I'm a dishwasher at a restaurant. But I'm in Ghana, and if I said I was doing that, then my peers would laugh at me. They go, how can you be? So that's the thing. The jobs exist, right? But we're picky in what a job is. And that's why I'm saying you can't just make jobs available. They're there. They're all there. How many of you today will say that you finish university, you're not finding a job, but a friend of your mother needs a help, and you will go and be a help? What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. It is a job. It is a paying job. And some of them earn 500 cedis a day, 1,000 cedis a day. That is good money, right? So there's a need to change our mindset in this whole idea of certain types of jobs are appropriate for certain types of people. But also to end, one thing I really want to bring to the table is let's also not forget about inclusion, right? As Abigail said, in her institution, children are programming in sixth form. My nephew, who's 4 years old, is the one that shows me things on my iPhone that I didn't know existed, right? That is a small subset of the reality of our population, right? And so we also need to take a look at what is happening in our rural areas, the lack of jobs in that sense. Why is it that there are limited opportunities that are letting young men and young women migrate to Accra and come and do kayaking, or come and work in mining in unsafe ways? So there's also in the discussion as we're looking at what are the types of jobs out there for the present, for the future, but what are the different types of youth getting access to what is available? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so yesterday when we had a video, a different one, where we had a young lady share her hopes and fears about the future. And she talked about the fact that she's a woman. It meant that there are certain types of jobs that she could do today, but she could not do tomorrow. Because she's looking at in the future where she has her family, she'll be looking at spending more time to do parental activities. And so she would not be able to undertake the kind of tasks that she's doing at the moment. And it's good, as we've talked about it, we're also looking at young people with disability, because the future is for all young people. And as we said, they are from diverse background, in rural and urban, young people, male, female, some are disabled, some are educated, some are out of school youth and all that. And the future belongs to those various categories of young people. And the challenges are different when you go deep into the issues of unemployment affecting these young people. Now, there's one issue about the gig economy and how a lot of young people lately have what they normally call the side hustle, or they have something that they are doing in addition to what their main job, or for some people that is even their main job. Yes, and it's very common lately. Nick, I want you to tell us more about that aspect. Are there more opportunities for young people? How can we support young people such that those who find themselves in that economy can also do well?
Okay. So it's interesting. From the example she gave, you notice that coming from the first, second, third industrial revolution, where the advent of the internet and the computer was kind of the main feature. Now we've gone to the fourth industrial revolution, where we're talking about robotics, we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about machine learning. And so this revolution has also spurred up some kind of rules. And one of the key ones are the gig economy you're talking about, where I can even sit here and be working on a project probably in the UK. All I need to do is to connect to a server once a week, and I'm adequately paid. And these are mostly independent contractors, like you said, side job. But for some people, I have a colleague who does this full time. He works about 5 places. He has a project he's doing in the UK, but he sits somewhere in Kaswa, in his house. I think that with the fourth industrial revolution, the concept of what work is has also changed. And this has changed dramatically in the sense that technology is spurring the growth of new jobs rules that hitherto did not exist. Okay. If we look at the fact that the youth is also looking at how can I get jobs, available jobs, what the fourth industrial revolution has also brought is that it has created its own kind of jobs that hitherto did not exist. And so if you look at the gig economy, you can see that a role like an Uber driver is a typical example of a gig economy job, because probably I can have an 8-to-5 job, but weekends I decide that, I'll pick my car and then just go through town and just pick a few passengers. Okay. Somebody decides that I want to be a transcriber for a company in the US. I'm a working mother. That fits into the example you gave of the lady in Kumasi. Yeah. So when she gets to the point where she feels that my roles within the home has kind of changed, and so I can't probably go out of my house to. You have several roles online that you can perform that would also fetch you some income. And so the traditional concept of what work is has been greatly influenced by the fourth industrial revolution, where, like I said, the advent of new technologies are coming in. You can also have somebody, this role of digital strategies, digital marketing. Somebody is sitting on social media. The person is on YouTube. All he does is to probably show you how to pour this water into this glass, and then you watch and you learn and you pay for it, And so it has created, and these are all part of the gig economy we're talking about. It has created new job roles that hitherto did not exist. So yes, indeed, the gig economy has come to stay. And I think that one of the key things that for Ghanaian youth we need to also be mindful of is that it requires a lot of reskilling, because it is quite new. From what she mentioned, it looks like probably our education system is still in the third industrial revolution. The world has moved on, you know. So I think, yes, the gig economy has come to stay. It has its own kind of jobs that it's created, millions of jobs. And I think that if the youth can identify or harness their skills in some of these roles, I think it would help to ease the burden of unemployment within our setup.
All right, thank you. So we're talking about how technology and artificial intelligence is changing the world of work and how we prepare young people to be able to find jobs within that economy. Because if your skills are outdated, what it means is that you would not be able to even find jobs or even know that there are certain tasks you could even perform and earn something out of it. And so we'll be looking at encouraging young people to become abreast with the technological changes. And by this, we're looking at our education system, and not only that, also providing support for young people, even as they aspire to do other things. So we'll be opening up the conversation to our participants in-house and then online, so that we take your contributions and then your comments. Okay. So Leslie, with the young people that African Skills have, you prepare them for the future. With the average Ghanaian young person that walks to your office to be trained to go out there to find their dream job, what are some of the skills that they need to be able to fit into our current? Because our young people are listening, they are taking notes, and we are looking at the future. What are the skill sets that they need? Where should they focus on, even as they build themselves for the future?
Thank you so much, Ethel. So for us at African Skills, what we focus more on is open up opportunity for young people. So we always say that we can open the door for you, but it's for you to just find your inclusion. So you come to the academy, we can able to help you to get your internship at, let's say, Vodafone, or let's say, EcoBank. It's for you to just when you get there. And for you to justify your inclusion, it means you must be able to have skills that can able to sustain you when you get inside. And the skill that we've always mentioned has been the digital skills that I mentioned earlier, and also ability to able to solve problems. It's also key when you get to workplace. And for us, we also believe that there are other opportunities that young people can able to explore once they look for the future. They look at the future. And one thing that Christabel said is that we can't, which means that there are jobs available which young people must be able to pursue those jobs. Every year we see over 1,000 jobs from recruiters who say they can't find young people who are ready for those work. And the same year we also get students who also say they can't find jobs. So there's always a gap in there. So the issue is that as a young person, you must be able to acquire skills and be ready to search for jobs to be able to find the job that you are looking for. But with that, we also encourage them to look at other opportunities, which for me, we call it the color spectrum. So there are other jobs available that young people don't pay attention. And when you say color spectrum, those of you who are watching online, or you can easily Google about it, and putting the whole economy into colors. So the first color is what we call the orange economy. The orange economy talk about the design and creative arts industry. There's opportunity there. So as a young person, you either get a skill in there to be able to find a job over there. The other one is what's called the purple economy, which we call the education, the daycare centers. When you look at the COVID, it was clear that many people got pregnant, which there will be a lot of children coming up, which they may need a lot of daycare centers. You can get a skill in there. You can work in a daycare center. There are a lot of people in abroad who work in a daycare center and they are comfortable. So after your first degree, you can work in a daycare center by getting the skill there. The other one is what we call the blue economy. We talk about the oceans and the others. You can get a skill in there. There are opportunities that's coming up, which, if you focus on your first degree, your accounting, your marketing, you may lose those opportunities. So you can get a skill in there as well. The other one is called the green economy, talked about the farming, the agriculture, the stability, and the renewable energy. These are the different economy that young people can be able to acquire skills to find opportunity in there. And the last one is what we call the silver economy, which is the big data, the AI, and also the coding and others. I mean, I've seen people with first degree in accounting, first degree in public health, and they're coding, they're developers. And they sit here in Ghana, they work for a company like Google and Facebook remotely, and they're getting paid. And Ghana is recruiting developers in Ghana. And a friend of mine, he pays 38,000 Ghana cedis for sitting here and coding for a company in the US. And she has a background in accounting. So this is a new skill. The economy that is coming up as a young person, you must be able to get a skill so you're able to find a job. If you're going to focus on the traditional skill that you have, because I did the first degree in accounting, so I should find an accounting job, you may be a fool for the rest of your life. So I think that's what I just like to say.
So we're just opening up conversation to audience in-house. If you have a question, kindly raise your hand, we call you, and then please, when you are called, mention your name and where you are coming from, and be very brief and straight to the point. One question per person.
Okay. There are also some questions coming in from online. I'll read a few of those as well before we can take any from in-house. So Matthew Akoto says, thank you for the program. He wants to know if one's personality type influences the person's career choice in this digital age. So I think we should take one or two more.
Yeah, let's take some from
Does anybody, contribution, question? Okay, then. Right, we can touch on this and then we'll come back.
So he is asking about personality and whether your personality affects the type of job you can do.
Exactly.
Okay. So my panel, who will respond to this for me? Personality type.
I think not. I think that is just a way of, how do I say, shooting yourself in the foot, basically, right? Because, and it's part of, I mentioned the word culture, and then I always, I'm worried a bit because culture is created, right? So it's not necessarily that this is who we are. But the culture we have created within even our education system, that's exactly what the person is asking. I tell the story of myself in high school. When we got there, we were asked to take a math exam. And the first 80 people automatically assigned students for this one math exam. And so naturally I was told, go and be a science student. I do not want to be a science student. And I knew for a fact I didn't. I had to even go bring my mother to the school to come and try and convince them that I don't want to do science. Invariably, they convinced her that even if I'll do economics and geography, I should still do elective math. I hated it from day one to the end of schooling. I remember my teacher saying, you, Crystal, I know you. In this elective math, you pick the ones that you like and do it, and then you walk out. And I literally did that, even to the day of the final exam. There were 4 questions. I did the 3 that I did. And to be honest, they haven't accepted me to an extent, but yes, they could have. If grades were all that we look at, because that was my lowest grade. In the meantime, I was teaching people French. So just to tell you how the system molds us. That's one. The other piece also is the discussion around how when you start something, you can't stop. We're not versatile. I went to college in the US. My first 2 years, I was doing introduction to drawing. I went to a liberal arts college, and the whole idea of that was you can explore. I had a seminar on biology. I knew I wouldn't do anything biology related, but it opened my eyes. Religion, East and West. Before I honed in on my major and then moved on. And what that did also is it allowed me to be very set on what it was that I wanted to do because I could explore. So all of these things are what build character and all of that. I don't think anybody has a specific character. I'm an introvert. When I tell people I'm an introvert, they laugh. Because people who know me know that I'm always out there speaking. Why? Because that's what the world,
Like, I won't thrive if I don't come out and speak. It doesn't mean that every time I'm coming to speak, I don't get nervous and all of those things, because that's not a natural thing that comes to me. So I think that within our education system, we need to set up our young people such that you are versatile, you explore, you are not one little thing, because nobody is a particular type of person. You are a mixture of your environment, your education, your home training, all of that. And so my short answer is no. You should not limit yourself because you think you're a type of person. Thank you. Sorry, I talked a lot.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Please, does anyone want to add to that? Okay, then we continue our conversation. So earlier we were talking about technology and how young people would have to adapt quickly because everything is moving so fast. And you go to bed, you wake up, and things have changed. If you are not also building your knowledge, you realize that by the time you are out of school, you don't even fit into the world. You go out there, and everything you learned in school is different from what is out there in the world of work. And then you are angry at your educators. You are angry at people who taught you that, why didn't they prepare me for the future? Abigail, is there any other things that young people can so that it's not only about because yesterday we had examples of difference between education and schooling and the mindset even of people when they are in school. Okay, we are in school, I'm here to get this degree, so you study hard, you pass all the exams, probably even rote learning, where all your focus is to pass the exams. You pass the exams and then you do your beautiful graduation, you are out of school, you want to work. But when it comes to the knowledge to work, it's not there. What can young people do? And by young people, I want you to go deeper. It's not just those who are even in school, those who are out of school too. What can they do so that they do not fall out of time? They do not become outdated because the world is changing and everything is moving so fast.
Thank you, Estelle. Talking about preparing young people for tomorrow's jobs today, I would say that the preparation, like 90% of it depends on you, the young person. You should be ready to prepare yourself by learning and unlearning. So you learn something in school, you come out and realize that there are things you're expected to know. There are things you're expected to deliver, but you don't have it. So what do? You learn. And learning, as we want to go formal, informal, anyhow you can learn, anyhow you can acquire the skills, and then you can develop yourself. And then you can tell yourself, okay, I'm ready. When the opportunity comes, you know that you can be accepted. And I read somewhere that someone said most of the time opportunities they don't just come, they are created. So you prepare yourself, you learn, and you unlearn certain things that will not help you. And when there is the opportunity, you know that you are ready to go. I would like to use myself as an example. I'm a researcher, but it's not because I was trained to be one. No, we started from school. My friend and I will have the opportunity for data collection, and we were there. Everything that comes for us to do. And along the line, we learned to do a lot of things differently from what we were taught. I don't think my friend was ever taught how to use ODK and Kobo Collect in school. But the time came for us to, that skill was needed. And what do? You learn. SPSS. And most of the time, I know some young people, especially the women, will limit ourselves when it comes to computer, nah. SPSS, Excel, nah. I think it is time that we have that mindset, that we're ready to learn and prepare ourselves, so that when the opportunity comes, or when we are able to create those opportunities, we can best with them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I want us, we've talked about from the side of the young people what they should do to prepare for the future. I also want to look at the private sector and governments and the role that they can play in youth skills development and also employment programs. Nicholas, can you start?
Yes, I think that let me start with the state-sponsored or government-led. It's very critical, especially in Africa, where we have that skill gap. Looking at how we have majority of 25% of our population being youth, And we're seeing that day in, day out, we are seeing the challenges that youth unemployment poses to us. I'm also a little bit disappointed that over the years, there's not really been any strategic plan from governments to be able to see that the youth are really empowered in terms of the ability to create jobs. If you look at some jurisdictions, let's say some years ago, the Indians discovered that we can hone the skills of our youth and attract, put in infrastructure and attract call centers globally. And so if you look at India, most of the international call centers are routed through India. So you call a US company or you call a European company and you hear somebody speaking with you, the person is probably based in India. So the data centers, all those ones in India. I've seen the South Africans also do something like that, and I asked myself, what have we positioned here for Ghanaians? Beyond the clarion call of, oh, we've created 200,000 jobs, we've created 500,000 jobs that we applaud ourselves for. I almost don't see the impact that we have made over the years. I also think that some more effort, maybe from those of you in advocacy, to push further beyond the ability to create temporary jobs. Because I think that's what I hear more governments talking about. You see that the millions of temporary jobs, but at the end of the day, we all know what happens. At the end of the day, they just whiz by and then another group comes in. And so we're not creating jobs, rather we are replacing jobs. And so if the team A shout that, yeah, we don't have jobs, the next few years, they go in and then the other team is substituted. So I think that there's a lot government has to do in terms of infrastructure. I also always match it up towards the technology side. In terms of infrastructure development, I think I've seen a few. I had the opportunity to work at the District Assembly as my first job, where there was a community information center that was set up that was supposed to bridge the digital divide between the served and underserved areas. So I was in Kwesa rural area, and I saw the reality of the gap. When we sit in Accra and think that I can easily pick my phone and browse the internet and access things, and it was disheartening. It even went beyond the youth to employees within the District Assembly who had very little computer knowledge. And you sit in Accra and think that everything is well. So some of these interventions, that was a defect-led project, and I think that it needs to be deepened, in terms of access to internet, beyond the social media that we use to play with, state-sponsored critical strategic input in developing infrastructure across the country to allow Ghanaians to have access to information and to improve our lot. When I come to the private sector, most of the time we hear that the graduates that are coming in are not employable. I think that we need to move away from that mantra. We've sung that song for a long time. Now you're seeing some jurisdictions that are creating a hub within their space where they're having more graduate trainee focused employees, and instead of coming in prepared, cooked. The question I ask myself is, who should cook for you to enjoy? Okay, I think it's high time we have the private sector okay saying that, okay, I'm picking A, B, C who have fair knowledge of the work environment I'm operating in. But you come into my space and I try to hone your skills in particular areas for you to perform effectively and also be productive. So beyond the individual who has the responsibility of allowing him or herself to be trained, I think that both government and private sector need to put in more effort to say that, hey, this is the quota we're also contributing to alleviating the unemployment situation in the country, beyond what we have seen over the years.
All right, thank you. So Christabel, I would want you to respond to this question. So now with young people transitioning from jobs school to jobs, and even sometimes from jobs to jobs. We realize that when we look at the labor market, we've talked about a lot of gaps. The mismatch in the skill set, the lack of knowledge in certain the technical know-how, and even how to the social and the cultural intelligence to even work at the workplace. We know that internships and career guidance or support, mentorship are all good ways of preparing young people to transition smoothly to work. Do you think that we've made enough investments into this aspect of ensuring smooth transition for young people from school to work and even also from work to work?
The short answer is no.
Okay.
In our research on youth employment, this is one of the major things that have come up. Within our school settings, for those who are in school, there needs to be more intentional career guidance, career development offices set up. And within that is things like internships. I mean, I know it's done now better than others, but it needs to be a requirement for graduation everywhere, for you to have 1 or 2 internships before you finish school. Because what that does for you is you get work-based learning. You actually are on the job trained and asking yourself if what you are even doing in school is what you should be doing. Because a lot of the times, as Emmanuel and others have said, you end up doing things that are very different from what you were trained in school. But how do you find that out? It's by actually experiencing it. And so there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done in that area. Then there's also, and I will be interested to know if anybody in this room actually knows of the public employment centers. So there's this thing called public employment centers that exist under the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations. There's 64 of them existing across the country, but they're completely dilapidated. These are supposed to be job intermediary centers. So you can go in as a young person, apply for jobs, get counseling around, the work that you do, some psychosocial skills that people need also, and all of that. But we have totally left these to rot. And in an upcoming World Bank project, actually, we're going to support the government to rehabilitate these centers because they're very important. Because like Nick rightfully said, everybody thinks Accra is Ghana, and it's not. It's a different ball game if you take a road trip into the hinterlands and see what's going on. So a lot of people lack the access to be able to be viable. But if I may, I wanted to touch on the points that Nick was mentioning of the role of government and private sector, which is something that we really highlight in the report we worked on. Government is an enabler, and it needs to remain being an enabler. And yes, you will do programming, but these are all very short-term programs. And what we found is that a lot of the programs don't have a value for money analysis. They don't have tracer studies, so they don't know that the youth that they brought in 2017, what happened to them when they left in 2019. And the reality is if you pump money into short-term employment without looking beyond that, then really we're just wasting money. It becomes an election cycle thing. So I also want to encourage the youth here. You have a vote, and these are things that you should be pushing whichever government is in power on to really look at what happens beyond that 4-year cycle, because the 4-year cycle makes us not really work on systems, which is what should be done. And I'm not saying that government is not doing their best. There's actually a lot of investment in the youth employment area. But I'm saying that it is for you, the youth, to make your voice heard in terms of what it is you want beyond that 2-year or 3-year program. And that is really important. Thank you.
You're welcome. Leslie and Abigail, do you want to add to that on private sector and government and the role they play in ensuring that there's youth skills development?
Okay, so I think Nick and Christopher said enough. One thing Nick said is about translating what is happening in Accra into the district or to the locals. I mean, when you look at Accra here, for me, I said there are a lot of opportunities as compared to 10 years ago. MasterCard is in town. MasterCard is sponsoring a lot of programs. There's the Accra Digital Innovation Center. MasterCard is sponsoring about 30,000 young people to get skills for free. Yeah. My question is, are they able to translate all these programs in Accra to districts? So for me, I see At times we call for application and we don't even get anybody applying for a free program. Because the price is I mean, they are tired, they have had enough. So such of these free programs can be sent to this districts where there are lots of people, young people are crying for this program. So I think government should be able to look at those aspects. Accra is not only Ghana, that's
Okay. Yes, and that is really true that Accra is not the only place in Ghana. At the Youth Forward Learning Partnership, we work with a lot of young people, both in the rural and urban area, and we actually had a program which is the MASO, which is the Next Generation program for young people, teaching them, which is also funded by the MasterCard Foundation, where we teach young people to grow cocoa and also support them with entrepreneurial skills to create their own businesses along the cocoa value chain. And actually, the young people that were in the video are young people from the MASO project. So they are not from Accra. Yesterday's video, they were from the urban centers. But these are young people who have benefited from the Youth Forward initiative, that's the MASO Cocoa program. And actually, there is a lot of work to be done at the rural areas that we would want to call on all our stakeholders who are watching us to pay attention to the rural area, because it is when you equip them with the right skills to be able to find jobs or create their own jobs and for the rural economy to thrive, it is only then that you even prevent them from migrating to the urban areas where there are even non-existing jobs for them. So it's very important that as we are creating a lot of opportunities for young people in the urban areas, we also focus on the rural areas because there are lots more young people there. And our conversation is getting interesting. If we have somebody in-house who has a question for us, we would like to take them at this point.
So your name and then the question briefly.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Richmond Parker. I'm coming all the way from Kumasi to participate in this fair. I would like to thank the organizers for bringing up such a program for us to brainstorm here. But then one thing that I want to say here is that for the paneling, maybe subsequent days to come for activity, maybe we can do that. If possibly, they can take my observation. We have been biased here in the sense that all that we have been saying, Ghana is a country that is 90% controlled by the government. So in terms of policy making and other things, all this that we are discussing here, we have not been able to add up with the side of the education ministry, the TVET, or the curriculum research, because there's a lot of things that we say here. It goes down to them for them to be informed and help us to do the right changes. And then also, if like such a forum like this, at the end of the day, we can issue a communique out as to what we have decided on to do, because it's all about dialoguing. That is what the topic is saying, dialogue on the future of work for the Ghanaian youth. So as we discuss here, we can put up a communique. Even we can send release to the government, ministry, the Tibet, all them for them to be considering what we have come here to settle on. So this is one or two that I want to add as a contribution. And as we go on, I will add more. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Parker. I think we'll work on a communique after this event that will go around. So if you have participated, we'll definitely share with you via email. But I think the panelists will respond to the other. Any other questions or contributions? Okay.
So whilst we pass the mic to our next contributor, actually this conversation that we are having, it's normally at the end of our conversations, the contributions are put together in a policy brief that is shared with the stakeholders involved. And as I said, this conversation is part of a bigger project, which is the Youth Forward Initiative, which is funded by the MasterCard Foundation. And within the Youth Forward Initiative, we have a program for youth in cocoa, a program for youth in construction. That was in the urban area, the Yedie project, but that has ended. And from time to time, we do hold dialogues to open up our, learnings, and then we learn from our panelists, we learn from our participants, and then we put together our ideas or our thoughts in a policy brief that we share with the stakeholders. So your point is well noted, and we'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Mavis Ai from Curious Minds, Ghana. And my question is that with all the trainings that young people are receiving, when it comes to sometimes the vocational or the technical trainings that young people receive, maybe in Accra, are there any systems that monitor the young people who are trained? So it wouldn't be like sometimes they are trained, but after that they lost interest in whatever training they have been given, and so they don't put anything into practice. So in the long run, we are unable to sustain anything. We are unable to make anything out of the training that we have received. So how are the young people monitored? So in case there are any challenges which may even discourage them, they are taught something else, or they are given a certain strategy as to how to even maintain the trainings they have given and make it useful. Otherwise, a lot of people will be trained, but we wouldn't get any benefits from it. So what are the systems of monitoring? How do we sustain the practices that the young people are receiving? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Victoria, okay. So I'll take Victoria first and then I'll go down.
Okay, mine is a contribution. Okay, I'm Victoria from PDA. What I realize is that as young people, we have to be intentional. I think that is one thing I've also come to appreciate. That in every space we find ourselves, we have to be intentional about learning, about tapping into ideas. Sometimes you don't necessarily need to be in a class or be part of something. It could just be a conversation happening around you. You need to listen and be intentional. I remember when social work was, because at first Ghanaian University was offering sociology and social work. But the very first year, it was splitted into social work and sociology. The first batch and second batch of social work students, there's so much difference. The maturity, the zeal, the skills, it's amazing to watch young people. And I think it's because of the practicum that they got to do. I think third year, they go out and they are stationed in different organizations. And when they came back, I think that even the first batch, I can mention like 5 or about 10 people who are doing very well compared to their mates who didn't get that opportunity. We go for internships and people send you to buy food and other things. You are just doing it because you think you need to report back to school and say, oh, I've done this internship. But we are not intentional. We just feel like we are just there to do this and just leave. So let's be very intentional about our environment and be eager to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. We need to be intentional. Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm Rita. I think Victoria have said a bit about my question. I wanted to ask, how do we deal with the issue where we go for internships and you will just be sent to go and buy food, it's just going around and up and down. And at the end of the day, you don't learn anything from what you're supposed to go and do there. And then another one too is when you apply for the internship, organizations don't actually pick you. I don't know why they do that, but they don't really just pick you for the internship, and you just be going from one organization, the other one, and to the other. So how do we deal with this particular issue? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think, Ethel, we can let the panelists react to this and then we'll take another round of questions after that.
So we had a question about systems to monitor training of young people in TVET. Christabel, I know you did a compilation of programs for youth employment or youth employment programs. Did you find anything in terms of monitoring young people after they've gone through?
That was one of the major gaps that we highlighted. In fact, as a result of that research, we're supporting government in an upcoming Ghana Jobs and Skills project to review the youth employment programs. In my opinion, they're not going anywhere. So if they're not going anywhere, why don't we rather see whether we can get more from them? And one of the major pieces there is about monitoring. Like I said, they don't have tracer studies. And the tracer study is really saying, I finished the 2-year program. What did I do? So that a year later, you go and see if they're still there. And so these are some of the systems that we want to assist governments to put in place. But as of now, for the majority, they actually don't exist. And that's just how it is. And so we're going to help to improve. If I can just touch on the internship thing, because that is close to my heart situation. My first internship, I was doing coffee in the morning, right? And that was just what you do. The one before me did it. However, what I decided to do is, I'll do coffee in the morning, and then when we are in the staff meeting, I'll write notes. Nobody asked me to write the notes. I decided to write notes, then I typed it up, and then I gave it to my boss. Here's the summary of the key decisions that we made. As a result of that action I took, I actually got more responsibility. So one thing I want to say to the youth here, those listening to us and all of that, and I think, I'm sorry, I forget your name, but Victoria also alluded to it, is that it's not going to be there, copied and pasted for you to use. You're going to have to create these opportunities. So anytime you find yourself in an environment that you're not getting what you want, so in every job, there's parts of the jobs we don't like, but you do it anyways. The issue is, in doing the one you don't like, how do you create the one you need and like, you know? So as you're going to buy the food for lunch, first of all, smile through the walk that you're going, because it's a health, you're getting healthy. They are sitting at their desk and they're going to be unhealthy. And then come back, distribute the lunch, and then ask them questions. Do you know, can I do this? Or I heard you talk about this thing in the job. How can I be a part of it? So this is something that I really think it's important for us to take issues into our own hands, and then that's how we'll build. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any panel member want to?
Yeah. For me, when it comes to internship, I mean, one at the university, 3rd year, we're asked, internship was a requirement that you need to do before you graduate. For me, I searched, I didn't get internship to do. So what I did was, I sent my letter to my senior brother to complete for me, and I sent to school. The school never asked me, where did you do internship? You want to follow up to where you did. So when I had the opportunity to create African Skills Hub, doing the research, I mean, internship was one of our key thing that we're doing. Then I realized that, and this is what we are doing. I realized that many companies, they were saying that when young people come to organization, they find it very difficult in involving the activity because the person is going to stay for 3 months. You teach a person 3 months, he or she is gone. So you don't put your hopes in there. So they feel like, okay, you just sit here, just buy food, just do photocopies. I mean, for 3 months, you will leave very soon. So what we are doing currently is that we are training organizations how they can make use of the interns when they come to their companies. Because each and every day we are placing students on internship. So you need to teach the companies how they can make use of them when they come there, so that they will not just be sending to buy and prepare tea and also do errands for them. So I think that's what we also do as well. Yeah.
Abby, do you want to add something?
So I wanted to add something a bit about organizations not accepting you for internship. And what I would like to say is that for the young people, especially in the university, you can try different things in different organizations. I studied geography and I was interested in environmental management. So I always wanted to be with EPA and other organizations like that. But first year, I didn't get any opportunities, so I worked with the media house. It was a radio station, and then I was in the newsroom. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I know that I learned a lot. Then one day they asked me to go cover, like to have a report on an election that was going on. I was like, how do I do this? I don't even know what to say. But at the end of the day, after the 3 months, apart from buying food and going on errands, I learned a lot. So all I can say is that you may not have the opportunity you want. You may not have the organization that you want to do an internship with. But anything that comes to you, anything that is available, take advantage of it. It will help you learn something new.
All right, thank you. We take our next round of questions.
Kwame, so you introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Isaac Deborah. It's a submission. Adding on to Victoria's submission and being intentional, I think it's very important because the world is changing. It's now a technological world. We are moving into a different space. We all use Android phones, and may ask, how well do we use our Android phones? Somebody would hear a news and approach a person, for example, Sharita. Say something about when you're COVID. You understand? Instead of you to make research, read on it. Being intentional means visiting YouTube, learning something new. As Abigail was saying, programming, the Python and other programming stuff, we can learn because as it's moving, there'll be a time the job we've been applying for will be requiring such skills. So being intentional, I think we should make use of our mobile phones and then go on YouTube and learn something different. It will help all of us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Isaac.
So my name is Lois. I'm an information broker, basically collecting data. Yes. So the issue of gender is what I'm worried about. How do we break these gendered norms? Like, we live in a society, I go to school as a woman, I have a lot of other things expected of me. How do I, as a youth, decide to go in for male-dominated jobs, to go in for, to do things that are out of the ordinary? How should I go about it?
Okay. Any other? Well, this is a dialogue, so please, if you have any questions, if you have any contributions, any thoughts on what has been said so far, some thoughts you want to share? Because I see you've written a lot. Okay.
Anyway, thank you. My name is Enoch from Dream Africa Network. And thank you, Mr. Leslie. I saw the advert on your LinkedIn page and then I joined. About what the government and the private sector are doing, for the future of work in Ghana. For me, I think it's much of the responsibility of the government, because if we look at our environment, there are a lot of policies that government has attempted bringing, and that's a government in power, and then the opposition will stand firm against it. But look, no matter what, they will institute the policy, and they will defend it for it to work. So the idea I'm trying to create here is that we need to make conscious effort about technology advancement, which I was late for the meeting, but definitely I know it to be said that through technology, which is changing the world today, that is where we need to go. So, for example, if you look at the free SHS policy, they face a lot of opposition, but look, government said, I'll do it, and they have done it. If you look at Ghana Beyond Aid, the government has stood against all odds. We are not accepting anything for you to determine or dictate what we do. And they are pushing their way through. The PDS Millennium Challenge deal, there were issues where they say, hey, we don't want your grant. We will do it our Ghanaian way. Now, I'm trying to, these are practical things happening in our environment. And I'm bringing it here only to tell us that, look, MasterCard is doing a lot, yes, but if they don't lose anything. But if the government will take it upon herself that, say, now Ghana Beyond Aid, now let's give it a name, the Technology Ghana, we are teaching the youth, we are setting up award schemes. Look at Maths and Science Quiz. Now, Maths and Science Quiz transcend beyond the secondary schools. Look, those who completed school about 50 years ago, they all join, and you see the euphoria around it. You understand? So for me, if the government should take the lead, like my brother said, if we should add it to the curriculum, the government should push their way out like India did. We will talk about Africa when it comes to technology. Recently we heard Google setting up artificial intelligence, whatever here. I'm not a science-based person, so I'm a business, based, but have a business background. So I think that where we need to go in terms of technology to take over, at least even as our West Africa sub-region, I think it should be the government's conscious effort to lead us, whether it's easy or whether it's possible, because they've done impossible things. They should help us, our youth, also to do these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution. The government needs to take a bigger role. Let me bring in some two contributions from YouTube. The first says that very relevant discussions. That's from Nanaya Amanima. She wants to, okay, so her contribution is that the society needs to do more to find a way to build the confidence of young people professionally so that they can be able to stand up on their own when the need arises. And then this other contribution is that the workplace should also give more room for starter learning. I'm not sure what starter learning is, but I think it's for people who join the workplace as they are beginning their careers. Any other contributions, any other comments? Otherwise, we can let the panel react to this and then we move on. I have a question that's not directly related to the questions that are coming up, but I think I'll still put it forward, and then the panelists can help me out with that. So with the way work is becoming more digital and, I mean, specifically more remote since COVID hit and all of that, and most of your discussions have been focused on how we can take advantage of these digital platforms to improve our skills and develop more. For me, I'm thinking about the social and the psychological aspects of focusing more on these more of isolated forms of learning. And the reason why I say isolated forms of learning is because if you're working remotely and then you're focusing more on your computer, you are likely to interact and engage less with people except for social media. And as human beings, we are social creatures. We crave interaction with other people for, diverse reasons. So the question basically is that how do we manage our own social relations, and how do we manage all of this just so that it doesn't impact adversely on our social relations and our mental development as well? Thank you.
All right. So we had a question on gender, and how do we break gender stereotypes of our work?
I think I'll begin with the fact that it has to start with you, the woman, the youth. And let me talk about justifying your inclusion. Now, when I stand with my peers who may have the same skill set and educational background, whatever, the fact that I'm a woman, does that make me or put me at a disadvantage? Or do I see myself as not equal to the others? Because I'll probably get married tomorrow, give birth, and I can't come to work. So I would say that as you prepare, you, as a woman, you have it in mind that society expects this or that, or society says I'm a woman, I cannot do this or I cannot do that, but you have it in your mind that I'm ready and I would be willing to deliver as expected of me. And again, also, I think the workplace, again, should have that, or whoever, the recruitment or whatever process that women go through, or young people go through, there should be that equal opportunity for the man, the woman, no matter what. And because women, I would say, have additional roles, I think it would also be fair to have a system that allows women to do what they do at work and also perform their roles at home. So if the woman has to probably close earlier, which I know the men would argue otherwise, then maybe there should be that system to allow the woman add on her roles as a mother, probably as a wife, and also perform very well at the workplace. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
If I may add to that piece, because I think it comes back to the whole discussion around mindset. I mean, there are some very real social constructs and norms that make access to the labor markets for females less than for males. And I think Abigail touches on a number of them. And there are companies that have daycare centers on site.
So those are some of the solutions around allowing women to thrive. But one thing I want to say to young women is that it's important that you don't, look, in life, everybody compromises at a point, right? And so the fact that you're compromising because you're going to carry a baby for 9 months and then, need another, say, 9 months to be with the child, that is at that time, right? It doesn't take away from you and your larger goal in life. And I think we've given examples of opportunities that you could even be carrying out as you are home. I've been working from home since March 5th. I've been to the office 4 times because of COVID, right? But why is it because of COVID? Before COVID, there were times that I would work from home because we have a setting that allows that. And I don't want to belabor the point to make it seem like that is possible everywhere. Evidently, if you have a farm and you need to go water your plants, you have to go to it every day. But I'm saying that for educated women within the means, make sure that you don't say that you can't because you think you can't. And I think a lot of the times that's what it is that we actually just think we can't do it. Not so much that we can't. Can you have it all? I don't think any human being in this world can have it all. What does have it all mean? You at one point give up one thing to do another thing. Another point, and all of those pieces, that journey is what makes life possible. In terms of going to male-dominated areas, absolutely, why not? Why shouldn't a woman be driving a truck? Why have we created male-female? They are all jobs. I mean, I tell people though that, look, if I have a heavy suitcase and there's a man standing next to me who's bigger and taller, it's not because he's a man, it's because he's bigger and taller. I will let him carry the suitcase. Why should I struggle for equality? No. But at the same time, we shouldn't limit ourselves because we think things should be done a certain way. And we should really keep trying. You will fail along the way. Michael Jordan had to say that he failed, what was it, 99 times, and that's what even made him more successful in his career. And I think that's something that we all should really be mindful of. Let me stop. I really like the question that you asked, and I won't. I'll be quiet so that.
I'll take the views of the gentleman too on breaking gender stereotypes.
Yes. Basically, in the IT sector, you always find a lot of males, male-dominated largely. But I have also met or encountered very brilliant ladies who have taken leadership roles in technology that we all marvel and admire. And so I don't want you to think, like Christopher said, it's a mindset. I don't want you to think that there's probably a gender restriction or a barrier to what you can become. Because if you look globally, IBM CEO was a lady, and she led the company through some tremendous growth that the male counterparts could not. And so, please, I think that we should begin to move away from this mindset that I'm a woman, I'm an African woman, I'm powerful. Let's move away from there. And this is where the idea of being intentional comes in. There are so many things that you can do to improve yourself that the man, being male doesn't really add anything to who we are, I think that maybe probably in Africa, it's a mindset that, oh, the man must do this, the man has the ability to do this. But in my working experience, one of the most fantastic bosses I've worked under was a lady, and I never stopped talking about her because she was that kind of symbol of a woman moving away from what I was used to, working within the male-dominated industry, and what I saw her do, that to date, I still talk about her and her leadership qualities. So I think that the possibility for a lady to step out of that box that we have restricted ourselves in is really possible.
All right.
Yeah, for me, let me also add a little. I mean, I think the panel has said all about mindset. So realize that for African Skills Hub, we have programs for and anytime we open application, we don't get more women applying. So we said, okay, why don't we create, a program only for women? And we did that one. We're not getting them applying. So it's not about, there's we putting a barrier for women not able to try. The thing is the mindset. That's it. You all said. Breaking away from the mindset. Okay, the men are around, so I can't do it. Or men are supposed to do this initiative. There are a lot of initiatives for women, and you don't even get them applying for it. Which happens also, who should open the door for them? we try to open the door for them. It's for you to enter. And I think, as Christopher said, it's the mindset. Let's break away from that gender thing, and let's take every opportunity and pursue it. So what is it about? This is male job, this is female job. Every job is a job, and you should be able to pursue. I've seen male being nurses, and they are equally good. And I've seen female being nurses, and they're also equally good. So I think it's just the mindset.
Okay, so I would like to add to the breaking gender stereotypes. And this is from work experience with young people in the construction sector. As I said, one of our projects focused on the construction sector. And we had to engage young women in the construction sector. The lessons we learned from this was that young women come from diverse backgrounds. There are some that are naturally tough and so can, work in a male-dominated sector. There are some that have been able to build their confidence over time and so are able to fit into certain circumstances and can aspire to do certain jobs as a result of their environmental factors and other factors. But there are also other young women who would have to be encouraged. So even in doing programming for young people, you have to do a lot of mindful mobilizations where you target young women who probably have challenges. Sometimes they've not aspired for certain types of jobs because they think they can't. And you need somebody to put that confidence in you that you can do this job. Maybe there are a lot of men in that sector, but you can do it. You have the capabilities, you can acquire the skills, and you can excel. And it is important to have mentors, both men and women, who will serve as role models in the male-dominated sector, who will encourage young women to work in the sector. Because if you have somebody encouraging you and giving you the support and giving you even that space to operate, it really helps with young people, as well as creating a safe space so they feel comfortable. Because sometimes when young women even decide to go into these sectors, they face a lot of teasing and mockery, and it's not easy at all. You need to give them that support to be able to thrive in that sector. Our conversation is getting interesting, but we have to bring it to an end. So I will take the concluding remarks from our panelists. We've talked a lot about young people, about the labor market, about supporting young people to thrive in the labor market, and even how to, put yourself out there as a young person to find opportunities to be able to work, even as the future is changing. A lot of things are changing as a result of technology. I would like our panel members to share briefly with us as we bring our conversation to an end on the way forward on achieving quality employment and sustainable inclusive growth for the future generations. And I would want you to just tell us, what can we do? The future is big. The future is great. If you recall our video documentary, the gentleman ended by saying that he's hopeful that the future is great. And indeed, we are all hopeful that the future is great. But how do we ensure that the future is for our young people and that they thrive in the labor market?
Okay, so to start, so there are two things I want to say here. So one is for the young people, you should be able to break every barrier for yourself in terms of pursue greater things and be intentional about things. Make sure you move forward, you break the barrier that you have, explore more things, be inquisitive, and acquire new skills. The other side will go into for organizations. One I always tell about to employers and recruiters is that there's a lot more people out there. So the traditional way of recruiting must stop. There are a lot of people are ready to work, so we should give them opportunity to work. There are young people who have left school, we should give them opportunity to be able to do internship with us. We should open our doors for young people to be able to acquire the skill that they need to be able to achieve their aim. So for organization, for those who are watching us live, let's make sure that we open our doors for young people. Let's give them opportunity those young people who are ready to work to be able to get the skill that they're looking for.
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel.
Okay, what I would like to say to end is that we used to say, think outside the box. Now I think the box will just have to be a stepping stone for the young person preparing for tomorrow's job today, where you stand on the box and then you look around you. Take advantage of every opportunity and don't limit yourself as to how far you can go. Thank you.
All right.
What I would say to Ed is that the future of work is bright. We are seeing the advent of technology, and mostly the perception is that technology will eliminate all jobs. But I also want to say that it has an opportunity to create new jobs. And so for myself, for the company I started, like Starbucks. Starbucks, if you look at the concept, Starbucks was just like your traditional bookman who helps you to board the bus and then you get to your destination. And so let us be able to look at our environment and be able to explore opportunities that we can create within the environment for the sustainability of our jobs. In terms of our skill set, now we have the power of the internet, we have the mobile devices. Let us use them to help to learn, especially within this COVID era. You notice that there was a lot of entertainment. While some of us were also very busy retooling or reskilling ourselves to prepare for the world post-COVID. And so I encourage young people that you have the resources at hand. Let us not just be TikTok, let it not just be dance videos. Let's use the internet or the devices and the infrastructure around us to go to upskill, to reskill ourselves, and then at the end of the day realize that after we've gained all these skills, we'll be able to explore and identify opportunities around us and create jobs around them. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I think I'm going to stay on the mindset discussion because all the other pieces I think can be learned a little bit easier, but the mindset is an individual thing that we need to change our mindsets towards what a job is. Which job is appropriate for me versus which one is not. Bottom line is, what are you trying to do? One, you're trying to make money, and two, you're trying to prove yourself. And really, in a lot of jobs, you can do both. You know, and so let's be more open in terms of what we decide are available opportunities, and let's push ourselves to get it. My brother is a tech guy, and one of the things he says that I really appreciate is that we should embrace the machine. So like Nick said, we shouldn't see the machine, and by machine we're talking about like robotics and technology and all of that. We shouldn't see it as something that is going to throw us off, but we should rather embrace it and take it in and make the best out of it. So I'll end here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to our panel. We've had a fantastic conversation. I'm grateful that you came here. To our in-house participants too, thank you very much, as well as our participants online. It's been 2 days of having great conversation about the future of work. Is any job a better job? We learned that any job could be a better job depending on your mindset. And if you have a job that is not better today, it's a beginning. You can start with that and work your way to the better job in future. We've also learned from yesterday and today that the future is bright, but the future belongs to those who prepare. And so as a young person, you have to prepare. Work has changed, and so you have to be creative. Sometimes opportunities may not exist, or even if they exist, they will not come in the package that you imagined whilst in school. But you have to create your own opportunities or adjust to the existing situation. Change your mindset, start from where you are. You have to be doing something before you anticipate to make it great in future. So to our young people watching us, we want to encourage you to acquire new skills as the world is changing. Be bold, be ready, and the future is bright. Thank you all for listening. This program was brought to you by the Youth Forward Learning Partnership in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation. Thank you.
Please put your hands together for the panel. You could do better. As Ethel said, these past 2 days have really been very insightful. Myself, I've learned a lot. I mean, from different terminologies, even to the details of the conversation themselves. But just to recap as well, for young people, let's be deliberate, very deliberate. In every single space that we find ourselves in, we need to find ways to apply ourselves to the work that we do, so that at least we can learn beyond the black and white that's on the paper and beyond the instructions that are also given to us. We need to take advantage of technology, we need to embrace the machine, and then we need to learn it. The phones that we have, that we use every day for social media and whatnot, do way more than we can imagine that they do. We are rushing to get the new phones, but we are not done exploring what the old phones can do. For the government as well, the government needs to take a bigger role in helping develop the skills and capacities, especially for young people, and then in helping young people to access lucrative job opportunities from which they can learn more on the job. And that dovetails into the private sector as well, that the private sector also needs to do a lot more to train and build the skills, especially of young people who are starting out their careers. Least of which is because for people which are able to build when you're able to build people's skills to a certain level, it makes them much more committed to staying within that organization itself and growing themselves. Thank you so much for your time and then for these insightful discussions. We are hoping that we can continue this sometime either online or on some other platforms as well. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for them one more time. As the panel members take their seats, we want to replay the video from yesterday, the documentary from yesterday, just so that those who weren't here can also be able to have a look and then see what some other people are saying about what the future of work looks like.
Changing with increased population, climate change, and COVID-19, which is the current pandemic going on. Today we are here in the Kumasi Kejetia market to talk to young people about the work they are currently doing, what are their What are we doing the same?
I could see a boy.
Now I could see the age man now here.
Start with a phone, so phone side by the amount, Sunny Island.
Now, which one we know soon our hefasa?
Mission Master, no so high, my perfect cacane, the maximum.
And see, say now what's all who would also say that she and Fanny saying fear and no mucosi and fear do. Sign office a business no a year.
By 5 years time, the business na kone new. And say there be an phones in updates. Phones there be updates, but say yes.